Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Weekly Roundup, and this is the third installment. And this week, we'll be starting with the EFL Cup final, the game between Arsenal and Manchester City, which I thought was a very good game of football. And against all odds, well, maybe not against all odds, but we all expected it was going to be a very difficult game for Arsenal, especially because they're playing against Manchester City, right? Over a couple of years, or as Arteta grew into this role more and more, we have seen some tactical decisions from Pep Guardiola, especially against Arsenal, that seemed like this guy is worried or scared of Arsenal, right? But let's look at the lineups first. Arsenal started with Kepa Arrizabalaga, Ben White at right back, Saliba, Gabriel, Nkapie at left back, who has played that position consistently this season. Very solid defensively. Played Zubimendi and Declan Rice, and there was Saka, Havertz, and Trossard, who played under with Gyökeres, just a striker. On the Manchester City side, they had O'Reilly at left back. This boy has been a banger this season, scoring 2 goals from left back. And then with Nathan Ake, Kusanov partnering Nathan Ake in defense, and Nunez, who got an assist. Very interesting how Guardiola sort of transforms players. Nunez was supposed to be a midfielder, right? But the midfielder Man City is, I don't know if it is choked or he has failed to perform in that role. And now he's been moved to the right back and he's been performing really well in that position. There's Rodri and Silva in midfield, Doku, Sheki, and Semenyo, and then with Haaland up front. For an Arsenal team that a couple of questions have come up in recent months about, domination in games dropping, possession of the ball dropping, and a couple of other things dropping, creativity is slightly reduced, just because of how Arsenal are currently playing in the Premier League just to win. And I can understand this, playing to win the trophy. At this point, like an Arsenal fan told me that nobody should actually blame them for whatever is going on, whether they like it or they don't like it. They've tried the sexy football, they've tried the beautiful football a couple of times over the past couple of years, but it has not yielded the result or earned them the trophy. But now is the time, and Arteta appears to be doing whatever it takes to win the cup. And this comes with consequences, right? Of course, in the Champions League, it's a different ballgame. I expect Arsenal to be, better, fluid, and I'm just hoping for them that this sort of shift that they've made in the Premier League does not affect how they play against teams in the Champions League. But that's a different ballgame in itself. But in this game, Manchester City dominated in terms of possession. Manchester City held the ball more. Manchester City had more momentum in the game, which resulted in 2 goals, especially from O'Reilly, a player who has played all kinds of things, especially on the left wing for Man City. He has played as the left wing, he has played as the left back, comes from left back to grab 2 goals. Very, very, very big performance for him. A flurry of yellow cards all over the place, especially for Arsenal, picking up 3, trying all the code with Nkapie, going off for Calafiori, bringing on Madueke, Martinelli, and Gabriel Jesus, just to see if they could salvage something from the game or perhaps drag them into extra time. But that was not the case. And Pep Guardiola even picked up a yellow card as well. But overall, I thought it was a good game of football. Good win for Man City, who has also had a very unstable season, very inconsistent in quite a lot of things. And during the game, Sheki was caught. Ryan Sheki was caught juggling the ball while the game was going on, and the reaction from Guardiola kind of tells it all that, well, yeah, Arsenal, they are down in this game, but you shouldn't be doing that. But yeah, overall, good game of football, good win for Manchester City. Now Arsenal's quadruple becomes treble. Hopefully, it doesn't become double or maybe just the Premier League to win. But I really hope for Arsenal that this disappointment or from this game doesn't, just overflow or flow into the other games that they have to play, and they are still able to keep their heads up, go for the Premier League, push as far as they can in the Champions League, and also in all of the other, in the FA Cup as well, here for Champions League. Sporting CP, first game, Sporting CP against Bodo Glimt. There were hopes in the air that Bodo Glimt were going to be able to do the same thing they did against Inter Milan, getting the first few goals, getting a win on their own turf. And then when they go away, they're able to defend and then counter Sporting CP, just to get a goal or something like that. A goal or two, and then defend and get the win. But unfortunately for Bodo Glimt, and I say this with all sympathy for them because I was really rooting for them to, even get into the quarterfinals. That would have been a very big story for the club. Sporting CP came all guns blazing. Scored 3 goals in full time, dragged the game into extra time, scored 2 more goals, and won 5-3. The pressure was immense. And I saw a Chelsea fan saying while that game was going on, that look at the way these people were playing, always passing forward. This is sort of thing that I need at my club. And my response is, they have everything to lose. And that's why they've committed themselves to going forward. But overall, it was a fantastic game for Sporting CP. They fired on all ends, and they got the much desired goal, and they proceeded. And now to Arsenal Leverkusen was a good game. I would say a good game of football. First half was flat. Thankfully, Eze got that very beautiful solo goal, getting a pass and then just hitting the ball in the air for a volley. And that's now also added one more goal, won the game by 2-0, and now they proceed to the quarterfinals, getting the easiest draw. Nothing against Arsenal, but this is their way into the semi-finals, right? Perhaps into the finals, depending on who they play in the semi-finals. Chelsea PSG. Horrible display from Chelsea. Not even lifting a foot. It was terrible all around. Terrible defensively, terrible from the coach who withdrew the best players in the 60th minute. And I mean, just to play the devil's advocate, Guardiola did the same against Real Madrid because as soon as he evaluated the game and saw that it was lost and they got a red card earlier, he just withdrew some of the best players on the pitch. It's not a bad thing to do overall, but because this game was there for the taking, especially from the first leg, I mean, we replied 2 goals, scored a third that was offside, and then just lost the plot towards the end of the game, and PSG got 3 goals. So the game was there for the taking, and then coming into the second leg, this was just a 2-goal deficit. You could have put in the best legs, do all you can to get at least the first goal in the first half, but as soon as the game started, the goals were just flowing in from defensive errors and mistakes and all sorts of things, which meant that Chelsea conceded 8 goals in 2 legs. 8 goals. Terrible. Manchester City, Real Madrid, it was quite a tough game, especially because Man City then got a red card early in the game, which kind of demoralized the team, but they still managed to get a goal, but Real Madrid were too much for them. Scored 2 goals. Game ended 5-1 on aggregate. Madrid proceeds to the quarterfinal. Newcastle Barcelona. This was a heavy one. Newcastle put in a fight in the first couple of minutes, replying to 2 goals, responding to 2 goals from Barcelona. But it was very obvious from that game that what Newcastle were doing wasn't going to work for too long. Barcelona piled the pressure on them, and the goals just started flowing in. 3-2, 4-2, 5-2, 6-2, 7-2, could have been more on the night, but ended 7-2. Newcastle put in a good fight, but not enough. Similar scoreline to that of Chelsea, only that they got 1 more goal. But Bayern Munich Atalanta, not much to say about this game. Bayern scored 4 again, making the aggregate scoreline 10-2. Very massive numbers. Bayern are scoring loads and loads of goals at the moment. And Atalanta were not, exempted from that cheesecake of goals. Liverpool, Galatasaray. I mean, I think I said this in one of the videos that from the first couple of minutes, it was very obvious that Galatasaray was not going to offer anything in this game. It was pretty obvious. The pressure was too much. Liverpool serious pressure from Liverpool. And in the first half, Osimhen was injured from I think it was a body check from Konate, or it was just both of them trying to get the ball. And Konate gets, the better of Osimhen. And from there, he injured his arm. Oh, yeah, it was his arm. And he had to be pulled out of the game in the second half. Another player also got injured. In fact, I think he broke his finger, whatever the case is. And at that time, Liverpool already had a couple of goals. Salah missed the penalty, but eventually got another beautiful goal, which made it his 50th goal in the Champions League. Those goals could have been more than 4, but the Galatasaray goalkeeper was really solid. And given that Galatasaray came into this game with a makeshift defense, with Sanchez out due to suspension, just put them in a position where anything could happen. But Liverpool had the day, scoring 4 goals, and proceeding into the quarterfinals also to play PSG. That's definitely going to be a very good game to watch. Tottenham, Atletico Madrid. A lot of people believe that Tottenham were also going to, including me, we're going to concede quite a lot of goals in this game and maybe even lose again in the second leg. But just looking at the first leg and how it went, the first 4 goals, Atletico Madrid didn't do much to get those 4 goals. It was just down to defensive errors and goalkeeping errors from Tottenham. So the signs could be, maybe it was possible to know that the second leg was going to be different in that sense. All Atletico Madrid needed to do in England was just to defend and score 1 or 2 goals, which they did. They got 2 goals. Tottenham got 3. Tried all they could within their power that night, to score as many goals as they could as possible, but Atletico denied them this opportunity. But they eventually won the night, and ended the game 5-7 on aggregate, but unfortunately couldn't get past Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid then go into the quarterfinals, and the next couple of games in the Champions League, very tasty games, will be between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. That's a big game to look forward to. Bayern Munich are a free scoring side. Real Madrid are very good at scoring going forward also, but also very compact. Sporting CP Arsenal. I hope that Sporting CP will not get battered in that game, but Arsenal also. Given this is something that I worry for Arsenal. I hope that this disappointment then doesn't, get into the Champions League. Sporting CP should be an easy game for Arsenal too. Should be an easy nut for Arsenal to crack, right? But we'll see how that goes. On Wednesday, 8th of April, we will see Barcelona play against Atletico Madrid. That's an all-Spanish affair. Atletico Madrid, by the way, had beaten Barcelona on 2 legs this season, scoring 4 in the first leg, and Barcelona scoring 3 in the second leg. So I'm eager to see how this game will proceed. There's PSG against Liverpool first in Parc des Princes, and this is definitely going to be a tough game for both sides. Liverpool can be very good on their day, but they've been inconsistent. PSG, they love to score goals. So we'll see how that goes. And that's a very, very tasty game also. And then the return legs will be on Tuesday, the 14th of April. Atletico again against Barcelona. Liverpool now has to play PSG in England. And Arsenal plays Sporting CP also in England. And then Bayern Munich against Real Madrid. And then there's the possibility for us to see a semi-final of Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, or Barcelona or Atletico Madrid playing Sporting or Arsenal, PSG or Liverpool playing against Real Madrid or Bayern Munich. So very, very. So imagine if we get a Barcelona against Arsenal, a PSG against Bayern Munich, or PSG against Real Madrid, Liverpool against Real Madrid, or whatever the case is. Tasty, tasty games to look forward to in the Champions League. And now we'll move to the English Premier League. Starting with games on Friday, Manchester United against Bournemouth. A lot of Manchester United fans were very, very, very boastful about this match, thinking that it was all going to be rosy for them in this game. But unfortunately, it ended in a drama. Maguire picked up a red card in the 70th minute. Doesn't do too much, especially in terms of their league position. They still stay in third, with Champions League hopes alive and all of that. But very disappointing out for Manchester United. Good draw for Bournemouth. I would say they are also in 10th or thereabouts, trying to, you know, join the race for an European position, even if it's the Conference League. Good for clubs like Bournemouth to be in the Conference League. And on Saturday, Liverpool lost against Brighton, against all odds. I mean, even though somebody called it, I think it was Brown, who called it that Liverpool were probably going to lose this one. And Liverpool have been extremely inconsistent this season, which kind of speaks to why they win 4-0 at Galatasaray, a depleted side I should add, and then come to Brighton and then lose 2-1. Fulham also beat Burnley 3-1, well-deserved win for Fulham. Manchester City didn't play. It was supposed to be a game against Crystal Palace, but now it becomes an outstanding game, simply because they played Arsenal in the EFL Cup final. Chelsea, Everton, terrible display for Chelsea, but good win for Everton, who have had a couple of wins this season, a couple of important wins this season. And Chelsea still remain in 6th. Why so? Because every other team or other teams below Chelsea and above have also been terrible. So the Champions League dream is still alive. The Europa League dream is alive. Conference League dream, every dream you can think about in terms of European football is still alive for Chelsea. But can Chelsea clinch that position, especially Champions League position, remains to be seen. Leeds played a 0-0 draw against Brentford, as expected. Newcastle again lost to Sunderland, and questions are beginning to questions are beginning to get louder about Eddie Howe, and a lot of Newcastle fans are already asking, the questions to the owners. Yeah, Eddie Howe has been good for us over the last couple of months, but perhaps it's time for him to go. Perhaps. And this is a question that I even raised myself, especially after the Barcelona game, that he's a good coach, especially in England. But when it comes to battling it out with other coaches around, other teams around the world, especially tactically, there are some deficiencies there. You can't out-muscle Barcelona, for instance. So Newcastle needs two things. And there will be more games like this if you continue to go to the Champions League, where you are playing against a more tactical side. You are by yourself, tactical of course, but more physical. Newcastle definitely needs some certain kind of players. If they want to continue to be a regular Champions League team, then they need to get world-class players. In certain positions, they are very good players. There has to be a mix of very solid players. Coach also has to change. I understand that there are limitations around how much they can spend, even though the money is available, but the coach has to change, the philosophy of the club has to change, actually. The footballing philosophy has to change if they want to maintain that Champions League spot and be a Champions League going team. Aston Villa, West Ham. Yeah, Aston Villa has been poor over the past couple of weeks, but good for them to pick the win against West Ham, who's also struggling to get out of the relegation fight. Tottenham, Nottingham Forest. I'm not sure what can be done to Tottenham. Brown was saying that, well, they just had a glitch against Atletico Madrid and then they will reset back to default mode. And this is exactly what they've done. How can you lose at home 3-0 against Nottingham Forest? Nottingham Forest basically took Tottenham to the bush. And the questions are getting louder and louder. Is Ighotudo a good fit for this team? Are the players, because the commentator said against Atletico Madrid, if Tottenham play in this manner every week in the Premier League, if they play in this manner, they will not be in the relegation battle. And now Tottenham have, I think, 30 points, and they are 1 point above the team that is sitting in the 18th position. I will just check the table to confirm that now. Yes, Tottenham have 30 points, 2 points below Nottingham Forest in 16th position. Tottenham sit in 17th position with 30 points, having lost 4 in the last 5 and drawn just 1. 1 point above West Ham. 10 points above Burnley. Of course, maybe Burnley has nothing to do with this fight. Burnley and Wolves are probably relegated already. But there's a chance that there's a position switch between West Ham and Tottenham. And the next game in the Premier League will probably bring that to life. Will make that possible. Because Tottenham might go ahead to lose the next game. In fact, they might go ahead to lose the next game. But we'll see how that goes. Tottenham in a very, 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 very bad place, losing a record amount of games this season. Played 31 games and they've lost about half of those games. 15 games lost in 31. That's basically 50% of games in this season have been lost. Same for Nottingham Forest, lost 15 games this season as well. So both clubs are in a very terrible shape. Hopefully Tottenham would not eventually drag themselves on the last day of the season to survive relegation or whatever. We'll see how that goes. Moving out to the Spanish La Liga, a couple of interesting games. Barcelona won with a long goal over Rayo Vallecano to maintain their position on top of the table. And Barcelona now have 73 points. So that's 4 points ahead of Real Madrid. Real Madrid also played against Atletico Madrid. And Barcelona, by the way, have won 5 in the last 5. Real Madrid played against Atletico Madrid. Atletico Madrid scored a very beautiful goal. First goal from Ademola Lookman, which was a well-worked goal into the box. Just happy for him, that is, getting involved in all of the play, getting the goals, getting the assists. Vinicius gets a goal in the 52nd minute. Molina scored in the 66th minute. Valverde scored in the 55th minute, and Real Madrid lead 2-1. Molina scored in the 66th minute, that's 2-2. And just towards the end of the game, in the 72nd minute, Vinicius scored again, getting the win, picking up the win for Real Madrid. And Valverde also picked up a red card, and which sort of ensures that Real Madrid continue in that chase for the Spanish La Liga, now 4 points behind Barcelona by their own doing, because they were on top of the table at some point, but just lost a couple of games under Bello, and then Barcelona picked up maximum points in their own games and are ahead of Real Madrid by 4 points. And that is the weekly roundup, and thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll share your thoughts in the comment section, and see you on the next one. Have a wonderful week.